In 21 years of Cup Series racing, Denny Hamlin never won 3 races in a row. He does it once, and suddenly 2 former champions are knocking on NASCAR's door, asking questions nobody wants answered in public. Let's start with what Denny Hamlin actually did at Pocono Raceway on June 14, 2026, because the performance itself demands to be understood before anything else gets discussed. Hamlin started from the pole position in the number 11 Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota. He led 28 laps on the day, and when the race came down to a fuel-saving battle in the final laps, he took the lead from his Joe Gibbs Racing teammate Christopher Bell with just 4 laps remaining, and never looked back. He crossed the finish line 1.678 seconds ahead of the number 45 Toyota of Tyler Reddick. The win was clean, the car passed post-race inspection, and Denny Hamlin was officially the winner of the Great American Getaway 400. But that result was only the beginning of what this win actually meant. This was Hamlin's 3rd consecutive Cup Series victory, following wins at Nashville and Michigan, making it the first 3-race winning streak of his 21-year full-time career. What makes it even more historically significant is how he won all 3. Hamlin started from the pole position at Nashville, at Michigan, and at Pocono. Winning 3 consecutive races from the pole position has not been done in the Cup Series since Darrell Waltrip accomplished it in 1981. That places Hamlin in a list of only 4 drivers in the sport's history to achieve this feat, alongside Richard Petty, who did it in 1966 and 1967, Bobby Allison in 1971, and Waltrip in 1981. Every single one of those names is in the NASCAR Hall of Fame. At Pocono specifically, this was Hamlin's 8th official career win at the Tricky Triangle, a record that belongs only to him at that track. His 64th career Cup Series victory also moved him past the late Kyle Busch for sole possession of 9th place on the all-time wins list. Hamlin himself was direct about where his team stands right now. "I would certainly say it's the best we've been," he said after the race. "We come to the racetrack every week knowing we got a great shot to win. The team's doing an amazing job giving me exactly what I need in the car every single week. That's why we're winning." That kind of confidence, backed by results of that magnitude, would be the entire story in any normal week. But this was not a normal week. Now let's talk about the points picture, because what happened to the championship standings at Pocono is just as dramatic as the win itself. Tyler Reddick entered Pocono Raceway with a 51-point lead at the top of the NASCAR Cup Series standings. He finished 2nd in the race, and he left with only a 19-point lead. That is the smallest margin between these 2 drivers all season long, and the most alarming part of that statistic is who is doing the closing. Denny Hamlin does not just drive for Joe Gibbs Racing, he is also the co-owner of 23XY Racing, the very team that Tyler Reddick drives for alongside NBA legend Michael Jordan. That means Hamlin is actively closing the points gap on a driver whose team he co-owns. Reddick himself acknowledged exactly how uncomfortable that reality is. "It's a bummer," he said after Pocono. "If the 11 wasn't the winner, you could consider this a good day. I know we finished 2nd. Scoring the points we just didn't get the job done." With only 10 races remaining to set the 16-driver playoff field, Hamlin's 3-race win streak has completely flipped the title race on its head. And then there is the technical alliance between these 2 teams, and this is where the garage started paying very close attention. JGR and 23XR Racing share a long-standing technical partnership. They share support, equipment, and resources. Alliances like this exist across NASCAR, but according to a source reported by ESPN, the connection between JGR and 23X1 goes deeper than any other inter-team relationship in the garage. That relationship means Hamlin benefits from the full resources of Joe Gibbs Racing as a driver, while simultaneously having a financial and operational stake in the team that fields his closest championship competitor. No other combination like that exists anywhere in the sport right now. It is also worth noting the broader Toyota dominance that has developed in 2026. Toyota drivers have now won 10 of 16 Cup Series races this season. Joe Gibbs Racing alone accounts for 5 of those victories. When one manufacturer and one organization keeps producing results at that rate, week after week, other teams and other drivers start asking questions. And in the days following Pocono, those questions moved beyond the garage and went directly to NASCAR officials. Reports emerged after the Pocono race that multiple drivers and team officials had gone directly to NASCAR. Not in press conferences, not publicly, but privately. They were asking the sanctioning body to take a much closer look at the cars coming out of Joe Gibbs Racing and 23X1 Racing. The two names leading that effort, according to reports, were two former Cup Series champions, Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski. To understand why their frustration reached a breaking point specifically after Pocono, you have to look at what happened to both of them during the race. On lap 46, a massive multi-car wreck at Pocono collected Keselowski, Logano, Bubba Wallace, and Shane Van Gisbergen all at once. That single crash did not just ruin their afternoon, it devastated their playoff hopes in a matter of seconds. Brad Keselowski had already been dealing with consecutive bad results before Pocono. He now has 3 straight DNFs, finishes of 34th, 34th, and 38th, and has dropped to 17th in the standings, which places him outside the chase cut line. Joey Logano is now 21 points outside of 16th place, which is the last playoff transfer position. For two former champions watching the final races of the regular season slip away, the timing and the circumstances made Pocono a moment where private frustration became private action. Neither Logano nor Keselowski has publicly accused Joe Gibbs Racing or 23X1's Racing of cheating. That line has not been crossed. What they are asking for is more rigorous post-race reviews, deeper inspection of parts, and increased scrutiny on what exactly gets shared between two organizations as closely connected as JGR and 23X1. Their argument is straightforward. With the playoffs approaching and their own seasons hanging by a thread, NASCAR should be conducting inspections thorough enough to remove any doubt from any competitor in the garage. And then there is Bubba Wallace. Wallace drives the number 23 for 23X1 Racing, the same team co-owned by Denny Hamlin. He was also caught in that lap 46 wreck at Pocono that took out Keselowski and Logano. Wallace is widely known throughout the garage as a driver who speaks his mind and does not stay quiet when he has something to say. But on this entire conversation surrounding the inspection requests and the scrutiny being directed at JGR and 23X1, Wallace stayed completely quiet. One veteran crew member in the garage pointed out what everyone was already thinking privately. Would Bubba Wallace have stayed quiet if this level of scrutiny had been directed at a different team? That question has no clean answer, and the fact that it is being asked at all tells you something about where the garage's collective mind is right now. Joe Gibbs Racing and 23XY Racing have pushed back firmly against any suggestion that something improper is happening. Both organizations point directly to NASCAR's inspection process and state clearly that their cars have cleared every check conducted all season long. The number 11 passed post-race inspection at Pocono without any issues. The win is official. There is no asterisk next to it. 6 cars were sent to the NASCAR Research and Development Center in Concord, North Carolina for further inspection following the race. The number 5 of Kyle Larson, the number 7 of Daniel Suarez, the number 12 of Ryan Blaney, the number 17 of Chris Buescher, the number 42 of John Hunter Nemechek, and the number 45 of Tyler Reddick. Selection for the Research and Development Center is a standard part of NASCAR's post-race process and does not indicate any wrongdoing. But the fact that Hamlin's car was not among those selected while Reddick's was, gave the garage additional material to discuss throughout the week. NASCAR's official position remains calm and measured. There is no formal investigation, no penalties have been announced, no public findings have been released. The sanctioning body will not comment on JGR or 23XI specifically, stating only that all teams go through the same inspection process and that additional checks can be ordered at any time. The number 11 cleared. The win stands. Meanwhile, the playoff bubble continues to tighten in ways that are making every single remaining race feel enormous. Shane Van Gisbergen currently sits 14th in points of only 10 points ahead of Brad Keselowski in 17th. Eric Jones and Austin Cindric are ranked 15th and 16th respectively, with both of them sitting just 4 points above the cut line. Every position in that window is worth fighting for, and every race result from this point forward will shift the picture significantly. Christopher Bell is also dealing with an injury that adds another layer of difficulty to his situation. Bell suffered a fractured left wrist in a crash at Michigan, a crash that registered as the hardest hit of the NASCAR Next Generation car era, and he was still in the car at Pocono. He gambled on a fuel-saving strategy in the closing laps, led 18 laps, and ran out of fuel with 1 lap remaining, dropping him back to a 26th place finish. Certainly, we were mired back in the 20s, so I think it was an amazing gamble, Bell said after the race. The next 2 events on the schedule, the street course in San Diego and the road course at Sonoma, both require heavy gear shifting, which puts direct physical strain on exactly the wrist he fractured. Bell acknowledged those upcoming tracks will be particularly difficult given his injury. The San Diego race itself carries its own historic weight. The inaugural Anduril 250 at the Qualcomm circuit on Naval Base Coronado will be the first NASCAR race ever held on an active military base, coinciding with the 250th anniversary of the United States Navy. The last piece of this story belongs entirely to Denny Hamlin, and it is the kind of context that reframes everything else. Hamlin lost the championship in last November's season finale after a season in which he won 6 races and finished second in the standings. Then in December, his father died in a house fire. He came into the 2026 season carrying both of those things, the loss of a championship and the loss of his father, and he almost did not come back at all. His contract with Joe Gibbs Racing runs through 2027, which he has publicly stated will be his final season of racing. But his performances in 2026 have made those retirement plans a topic of ongoing discussion. JGR co-owner Heather Gibbs was asked directly about whether a contract extension beyond 2027 was possible. "It's hard when you dangle checkered flags in front of him," she said. "3 wins in a row have a way of making retirement talks complicated." Hamlin is now 45 years old, the oldest full-time driver in the Cup Series field, and he is racing at the highest level of his career. His first career Cup Series win came at Pocono on June 11, 2006. His Pocono win on June 14, 2026 came almost exactly 20 years to the day after that first victory. He swept both Pocono races in 2006, and Pocono has now produced more wins for him than any other track in the sport. Hamlin also took a pointed jab at NASCAR in his post-race comments. He argued that this was technically his 9th win at Pocono, not his 8th, because he was stripped of a victory at that track in 2022 after a failed post-race inspection. "They aren't getting that checkered flag back," he said. That one line, delivered by a driver who just accomplished something nobody in the sport had done since 1981, who is being asked about by former champions in private meetings with NASCAR officials, and who built a championship-contending rival team while driving for his own, captures exactly where this story stands right now. The number 11 is clean on paper. The garage is not convinced it has the full picture. And Denny Hamlin is winning races, closing gaps, and not losing a single moment of sleep over any of it.